Welcome, my name is Matt, aka Road Jedi 88. We're getting into Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes mods, Quiggold. And he is a pirate, scoundrel. Surprised he ain't on the smuggler list, but there is a slight difference between pirates and smugglers. In comparison, kind of obvious ones. And supposedly Order 66 raid, which I have no idea how. Never read of this guy anywhere in any of the books. Never seen him in any movies or shows, so other than I'm trying to figure out maybe he might have been a background character in Skeleton Crew, because he seems to be in the lineup for those particular pirates. Now, I know I have a history of kind of coming down opinionatingly hard on Disney Star Wars. That is largely because I do come from the George Lucas era generation of Star Wars, where the majority of Star Wars was always in the books. There were the movies, there were the games, but they were mostly in the books. And I kind of felt like I got what am I saying? Two words out in one. Bad vibes. Review objectives. Objecting against Skeleton Crew. Boy, I'm getting tongue-tied. Just bad reviews against Skeleton Crew, and this is probably going to come off a little strange to some of my viewers who have been following my videos and have heard my opinions on Disney Star Wars, but I would actually ask y'all to hit the brakes on any bad judgments on Skeleton Crew. For one defense I will give this Disney Star Wars TV series. And that is because of the George Lucas era generation of Star Wars Galaxy of Fear. Now, there is a difference between the Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean wannabe Star Wars pirate TV series. I get that part. And also this horror thriller book series from the George Lucas era generation of Star Wars. Galaxy of Fear was a separate independent book series, kind of sidelining from the majority of what you get of the Star Wars overall franchise story. It begins with a brother and sister that are coming home from a school field trip just in time to witness the Death Star blow up the planet Alderaan with their parents still on it. They end up having to be adopted by their Uncle Hool, who is a changeling. The only name drop mention of that species is in this book series. They call them the Shi'Ido. Even George Lucas in the Attack of the Clones, as well as the TV series Clone Wars, whenever they brought in the changeling species, they never actually give a name drop to that species, but this book series actually does. They refer to them as a Shi'Ido. Now, the kids were human. And get a question about the relationship there. Well, Uncle Owen was not actually biologically Luke's uncle. Not even close. And, he had very little obligated reason to even take Luke in as a nephew when Luke had nowhere to go after his birth. But he took him in anyways. So, family comes in all different shapes and sizes. And it's what's in the heart. This guy, he's in a series of a dangerous line of work. Whatever it is he's doing. I think he's more of a mercenary, if anything. And he's got to start having to bring the kids along with him. And the work he does is incredibly dangerous. If Disney wanted to have like a Halloween season, like an American Halloween time, or whatever people of other nations have like an equivalent to what we have as Halloween, horror, a horror thriller kind of time of month or whatever in their cultures, whatever, like we do in our Americans October. This would actually be a good book series for that. That's it. This is kind of its direct purpose. Galaxy of Fear was Star Wars personal spin-off version, kind of ripping off of the 1990s Goosebumps book series. And I know that's coming up a little blurry. Bear with me. I'm trying to work on the editing stuff. One step at a time. But the Goosebumps. This was kind of another book series that, for myself, back in the 90s as a kid, the 1990s, I would get into reading. And the Star Wars Galaxy of Fear was an equivalent of that, but for the Star Wars universe specifically. And this was actually kind of a favorite to a number, not just only for myself, but a number of other kids that were Star Wars fans alongside with me, that I grew up with. We dug into these books hard. So Skeleton Crew. I see Skeleton Crew as kind of a similar situation as Star Wars Galaxy of Fear. It's not the same genre. It's not a horror thriller. I mean, there's the elements of it, but it was more thriller-based, if anything. But to kind of go after Disney for saying that Skeleton Crew was nothing like Star Wars Galaxy of Fear would beg to differ. This was a George Lucas era generation concept. This isn't out, and this is not the only one that does this. I can't really think of any others at the moment, but there were occasional sub stories, like sideline sub stories, that would kind of show up occasionally in the George Lucas era generations of stories. This was just one of them, and this was actually kind of a heightened one back in the 1990s. So Skeleton Crew, the way I see it, can actually work for Star Wars. And in fact, if Disney wanted to tap into that idea a little bit more, they have Galaxy of Fear they could work with. For those of you who kind of been following my videos and heard my strong opinions when it comes to Disney Star Wars, I know it sounds a little strange to hear me actually defending something of a post-Return of the Jedi Disney Star Wars. But this one, I will defend it. Elements of Mandalorian, I will defend as well. Ahsoka, while they are on thin ice with the direction they could possibly go in with that one, as well as this Mandalorian Grogu movie, which my wife and I might possibly try to go see, if not today, maybe sometime this weekend. I'm not gonna lie, I'm nervous to see where they go with that. I want to see it. I also don't want to be disappointed. And while my wife does come at the Star Wars universe the same as the Disney generation, whereas I'm coming at it from the George Lucas era generation of it, and she's 3 years younger than me. So, I live in a house with someone who enjoys the Disney generation of Star Wars. So, I get it. And this is partly why I take the time and I try to share my experience. For those of the Disney generation who might not have understand elements of why there's a fan war at all, it is kind of partly because of this. Disney hasn't always followed the books that was there before. There was claim that there was no fan base. They ended up with a fan war because there was a fan base. You don't end up with a fan war without a fan base. But anyways, Skeleton Crew, I'm going to defend Disney on this one, and I'm going to say it is possible. Acolyte, they've screwed up the timeline on, so yeah, I would love to see a preluding storyline, long before The Phantom Menace, because there's a lot of lore stories. They could tap into it, but their screenwriter's going to have to pay a little more attention to that timeline that have already been backstoried into the George Lucas already written in place storyline. They're going to have to pay attention to that part. That's where they screwed up with the Acolyte. One of the number of things they screwed up with. But Skeleton Crew, thanks to George Lucas era generation Galaxy of Fear, Skeleton Crew is possible. And it is definitely designed to go to the younger generation audience. It's supposed to go in that direction. That's what Galaxy of Fear was designed to do. And I see Skeleton Crew being designed to do the same thing. Unless he also has made an appearance in any video games that would tie him in with Order 66 raid, I'm not seeing how that one is tying him in with Order 66. They've done a pretty... Star Wars Disney aspect in terms of Clone Wars has actually done a pretty good job tying in whoever has been involved with Order 66 and actually showing it, or one way or another. So I'm trying to make sense of that one. I'm probably missing, if I am missing something, you can comment down below. I probably just haven't gotten around to, if it's a video game that he is in and is linked in with, or a book he is mentioned as having been a survivor of Order 66. I mean, a lot of people are in the galaxy. I mean, at some point, anyone that goes as far back as that is a survivor of it. So, I mean, but we can't just categorize every single person as Order 66 if they didn't have any direct involvement with it. At least not of any, known mentioning of it. And that's just, maybe that's just my opinion, but, so he is a tank character. If you go to my very first mods video playlist, I do definitively break down, by definition, the various different types of character roles as well as the various different types of mods. Each of them, by definition, breaking down what is they're doing and what it is we are doing when we are applying mods to certain types of characters. Basically, in a sense, we're either enhancing their primary character role functions, or we're kind of cross-training them for secondary character role purposes. A tank, by definition, is not just that vehicle you might be thinking of. It is more so, it's what it is doing. It is protecting the soldiers that are inside that vehicle. Or if you have a fish, the fish tank is protecting the fish inside that tank. That is a tank. And in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, the tank character is a defender for the squad members inside his squad. SWGOH.GG and the in-game tips both recommended health and defense. Well, you see I'm modding him up with tenacity instead of defense. It mentioned double health and defense. And defense isn't bad. I will promote that. I will encourage it. But I also kind of saw other elements. As a tank character, tenacity means can't be easily torn apart. And it does appear to me that a number of his abilities where, he might kind of suck the life out of the opponent's characters. It also kind of risks doing himself damage. So tenacity, doubling up on the health mods is not a bad idea, but the tenacity also kind of plays a more, kind of contributes to that a little bit more. Shoot, if you wanted to do just one pair of health and one pair of tenacity and a pair of defense, I suppose you could try that. I don't know how effective that's going to be. Because it does kind of appear to me as if his health is put into question when he performs. Another alternative is do the double health and maybe potency. I did see an element in one of the abilities where potency seems to be a play, or it could be a potential. Potency is a chemistry term that suggests, a little bit of a dominancy to a bland situation. In this case, when he attacks, while he is a tank, he's going to be a little bit slower. This guy is more or less built to take hits, not dish out hits. But throwing in potency, it could allow him to dish out a little bit of hits or make his abilities a little more effective against the opponent. But if in the off chance it does have a backfiring effect for him, maybe not, instead of just doubling on the health, maybe throw in tenacity. Tenacity, by definition, means not easily torn apart. So, I mean, this guy, already in his DNA, his abilities are to defend, but yet he is easily, I haven't really played him out, but he appears, it sounds like he could be easily torn apart. I mean, sounds like he's just a willingly sacrificial dude. But if you want him to be able to stand out strong enough throughout the squad, you got to be able to give him something so that he can stay alive a little longer. So I'm kind of going in the direction of double health and tenacity. He's still going to be slow. He's not going to dish out heavy hits. But at least he'll be able to stick around a little longer and continue being the punching bag for the squad however long they might need him. Definitely going to need to make sure you have a healer or a support character that kind of helps contribute to what he's trying to do. To kind of help ensure that he stays alive. Otherwise, I mean, I definitely feel like I'm missing something about this guy, but just from what I was reading on his abilities, yeah, he sounds like he is good at sucking the life out of his opponents. But it does sound as though there are some downfalls. Maybe that's just in the earlier phase of his powering up his ability, but and that probably should be no surprise. But it does definitely sound as though Quiggold is designed to be more of a punching bag for the squad than, a heavy hitter for the squad. That's kind of what it sounds like they've designed him to do. And it does sound like in kind of being the punching bag, he essentially is kind of sucking the life out of the other guys. So there's merits to him. Tenacity would allow him to hold out a little bit longer with that double health mod. But also you might even consider potency in place of tenacity. Or maybe double tenacity and a pair of potency. Kind of see how that plays out. This is probably this is a situation definitely to kind of play around with mods and see which works best. I'm not saying that double health and defense is necessarily a bad idea, but this guy is like a willingly open punching bag, it sounds like. So you got to give him something. Anyways, that is Quiggold's mods. Subscribe to the channel, like the videos, comments, questions, suggestions down below, and thank you for following. May the Force be with you.